My name is Percy Jackson.
All right, we are back, and if you are joining us, you've most likely watched episode 1 and 2, and if you haven't, you should probably check. We're probably going to have chapters on YouTube, but, like, there's going to be spoilers, so whatever format you're in, just beware. You should have watched the first 2 episodes before listening to this.
How does the second episode start again?
So we see Percy and Annabeth are walking in the Chariot Race little arena, and they notice the Stymphalian birds. They pronounce it different. I think they say it like Stymphalian birds or something, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the correct one is. I've been saying Stymphalian birds forever, so that's where my brain goes. But they notice them circling overhead, and Annabeth is already deducing, like, they must be using them to test the barrier. So, you know, there's just randomly birds overhead. Percy's like, what? They gonna rain acid bird poop on us? She's like, no, they have razor sharp beaks. Anyway. But yeah, so we find out right away the two of them are scheming, and their scheme is, we're gonna keep Percy out of his cabin today by having him here at the Chariot Race arena, because there is a camp bylaw that says that even if you're on confinement to your cabin, you're still allowed out for camp-wide activities. And so, you know, he's like, I'm going to participate in this activity. You have to let me. He also tries to blow up, like, Tantalus's spot a bit here, because he knows that Tantalus isn't going to just listen to him if he starts telling him about the Golden Fleece. So he starts saying really loudly, hey, I know how we can save camp. And Tantalus has to take him to the side so that they can have a private conversation. We'll circle back to that because Chris Rodriguez is in the background of that part. Meanwhile, while this is happening with Percy and Tantalus, Annabeth snuck back into Chiron/Tantalus's office because she's trying to figure out why he's gone, or, like, you know, where he is. And while she's going through the office, she stumbles on drachmas and decides to Irish message him. So,
before we talk about that, can I just say one thing that I wrote down that, like, made me laugh? I was like, why does Tantalus's office look like an autistic person's dream? Like, he has, like, blackout curtains, and it's all dark in there, and I was like, why does it look like that? Why would I watch this the second time? I was like, I would like that room. Is this bad that I would like this room? Because Tantalus is definitely the villain. It's very interesting because it's not that different from the books, but because Percy isn't there, it introduces a very different, like, storyline, basically, of how this kind of goes. Because in the books, Chiron tells her to do the same thing. Like, Percy is in the room with them, and so they're not saying, like, in the books, Percy knows about the great prophecy, that it has something to do with him, but he doesn't know what it is or anything. They don't really introduce it the same way in the show, and so either way, in the books, he's in the room. He knows that they're talking about him, and Chiron is leaving when they get to camp, and they have this big emotional goodbye with him. And he tells Annabeth, like, he cannot go on the quest. You can't let him leave camp. It's too dangerous for him to leave camp. You have to try to keep him here to keep him safe. And so he says the same thing to her in the books, and she just doesn't listen. Like, when they end up going on the quest, when Hermes has them go in the same sort of way. But in the book version, like, she says, like, Chiron's going to be mad at me, but whatever, basically, is like, I just don't want to do this. In this version, because Percy isn't there, and they're like hitting on his betrayal trauma stuff, they have this whole thing that Chiron tells her, like, you have to find a way for him to stay at camp so that he doesn't go, because Kronos obviously wants him to go for some reason, and we don't want him to get hurt. And you can't tell him about the great prophecy either, but you have to somehow convince him not to, or find a way for him not to go without telling him anything. And I made a note at, like, the end, when they're, like, the end scene with Percy and Annabeth and stuff, but I can just say it now. Like, I wrote, like, I think it's funny that they thought that Percy would just like give up and not try to leave. What? Do you know him? Like, and it's one of those things of Annabeth is thinking about things like in the way that she thinks, which is very like strategic and unemotional and things like that. And so she's just thinking like, okay, if I just find a way to have him not go on the quest, then Percy is just gonna follow the rules suddenly and just like not leave to go on the quest. And it's like, of course he's not gonna do that. Like, he's Percy. He's not gonna stay at camp while you are out there trying to find Grover, while he's having nightmares every night about Grover getting closer to dying. He's not gonna just like sit there and just know that and not be able to do something to help. But I just think it's one of those things that Annabeth just thinks like he'll just follow the rules if there's no way for him to leave. And I'm like, no, he won't. Like,
No.
he's Percy. He can't, no one can sit there and have nightmares about your best friend dying, begging you for help, and just not do whatever you have to do in order to help them. But I just thought it just shows the different ways that they approach problems. That she just thinks if I figure out this strategy, then he'll have no choice but to do what I want. And it's like, of course he won't. But either way, it was now we can talk about, it was interesting to have Chiron and Annabeth talking because she's known him for so much longer. And we get a little thing of the party ponies, which I was happy about, that they acknowledged the party ponies, and seeing like beach balls flying around and he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt and stuff like that in the background. That was great. But it is like a difficult thing. I know the rest of the fandom is a lot harder on Chiron than we are, but I just always defend him that that's a really hard position for him to be in. Like, he doesn't want Percy to get hurt. And so it's like this thing of, we want to try to stop him from interacting with Kronos, but there's also not that much we can do to really stop these things from happening. Now we can talk about Clarisse and Chris Rodriguez.
Yes. So they made it very flirty. So she comes up to him and she says, I can be very persistent when I mark my prey. And he tells her to back off at this, but you do get the impression at first, like when she first approaches him, that he kind of is into her too. But it really, so this is all happening while Percy's trying to get Tantalus's attention. And so I think that's probably more realistically why he was like, I gotta like do my bad guy duties right now, you know? But yeah,
and Percy's like sitting right there and making the funniest face watching them, and once again Clarisse, he's not saying anything, and she's like, "Shut up, Jackson!" When she walks away. But the one part I did like about that is that it just shows, I was like, that is like the Aries style of what Aries would want you to do, is to be like super dominant and things like that. And I just like how it shows that like the rest of camp is like laughing at her and like, can you relax? And it's just that thing that always is happening with Clarisse, that she's always trying to do things the way that her dad would want, but it doesn't really, I don't think she really wants to do that. Like, yeah, she can be dominant, of course, be as masculine as you want, but you don't need to go that far. In order to do it, I don't think she would if she wasn't trying to like make her dad happy or something.
Yeah, but all of that is set up so Chris Rodriguez literally right there when Percy's telling him, like, I figured out what we need to do. Here's what we need to do. Here's the coordinates and everything. And so this is kind of like a jump to later, but Tantalus gets the coordinates wrong when he tries to be like, oh, I figured it out. And so you have to wonder if Chris heard them during this scene where he's like listening to them, because like somebody else was the one to clock it. I forgot who I saw, but like the fact that he just really does seem like he's actually paying attention to what they're saying.
And it makes you wonder, like, is he being a little mini mole? Is he there at camp reporting back whatever he hears to Luke, or are they going to have him join Luke's side during this season? Like, is he going to go on the quest with Clarisse? Yeah, like, or because they're going to show that kind of stuff, and Leah and Walker have been talking a lot in interviews about how they focus more on the demigods that betrayed them by joining Luke's side and them having to fight each other this season. And so it made me wonder if he's going to like change sides, if he actually still goes on the quest with Clarisse, because by the end of the episode, she obviously isn't going to go with Annabeth anymore. And so it just makes you wonder if he still goes with her. And then it makes sense of why Clarisse is so like, let me fight Percy and let me try to show like my dominance if she lost Annabeth, and then if Chris also like, you know, leaves or shows that he's been like a mole for Luke this whole time, whichever one it is. It's just interesting to think if she ends up with nobody again, even though we thought that she was finally going to have people to go with her. And then I liked the part with when Annabeth is talking to Chiron that I thought was very sweet is how she's like, I cannot lie to Percy. And Chiron basically just like looks at her like, you have to. And she's like, I can't, I don't want to, I just, she doesn't want to do that. And you can tell when she comes back and she's like telling that story that she just made up of, oh, if I just win the chariot race, then we'll be good. And he's like, well, we can race together, right? And she makes up a reason as to why they can't race together. But I thought it was just interesting because of course, in the books, the reason why they're not racing together is because they get in a fight about Tyson. And there's still something going on that she's not telling him about. That is the reason why they're not racing together this time. The thing that Walker's delivery of when she says the word boon and he's like, what is that word? I also did not know what that word meant. And
Me
when
neither.
she walks away and he's like, boon. That just like made me laugh so much about how he's just like, yeah, I know what this word is. I'm cool. I got this.
One other thing too, about Annabeth and Chiron's conversation. We know that their side had no clue that the fleece could theoretically bring back Thalia. And I think we probably even said this when we were reading the books. It's arguable whether or not Kronos did, but if he did, it's like what Chiron is saying is very valid in that like Kronos wants Percy to go on this quest, and that means that the quest is either going to result in Fleece getting back to Thalia and like Thalia popping out of the tree, or they're going to finally get the chance to capture Percy. And so like there's two ways that he was kind of hedging his bets with making this whole quest a thing.
Yeah, I think that Kronos thought that it was a possibility, definitely, that Thalia would come back because the reason why Luke is looking for it is to bring Kronos back sooner. And so if it can bring Kronos back when he's been gone for like millions of years, it's not against its magic that it could possibly bring her back too. I just always remember that scene at the end of the Sea of Monsters when Percy has a horrible dream when Kronos is laughing at him, being like, oh, you're like a child. You're like Polyphemus on the island thinking that you won when you haven't. And then like the next day is when Thalia comes back. I think he was kind of hoping that she would, or was banking on the fact that the magic would be strong enough that she would, because it just because of course it causes a lot of chaos after that. And in Kronos' mind, like Kronos and Luke think that Thalia would join them. And so they definitely think if they brought her back, she would be on their side when she ends up not doing that. But they don't think that is going to happen until the very end. Like I remember in Battle of the Labyrinth, like Kronos is giving Luke shit about how he messed up things with Thalia because they thought that she would definitely join him. And then what am I thinking about now? Oh, that the next scene is Percy goes back to the cabin where and Tyson is in there and he has a broken wheel and Tyson like immediately fixes it. And Percy's like, it's okay, you don't have to. And he's like, no, I can do it, and fixes it in like 10 seconds when that would have taken Percy a lot longer to fix. And the thing that I thought was interesting during this little scene is Tyson is like, oh, I wrote a letter to Sally. You should write one to her too. And Percy asks him like, and he stops and looks at him and he's like, what did you put in your letter to her, and he's like, oh, I just told her that we got to camp safely and stuff like that. Percy was asking that because he was afraid that he was gonna tell his mom how he made Tyson sad. And I'm like, that's why you're asking that. You're asking to be like, what did you say to my mom? Are you going to tell her that I hurt you? And of course he's not going to do that. But I'm like, that's why you're asking, you sweet little child. You don't want your mom to be upset at you.
I also love how Percy throws the "I can fix that" back at Tyson when he realizes, oh, the skill of Tyson's is super useful. And okay, so the chariot that he first finds, to me, it looks like something out of The Little Mermaid, and it makes me wonder, is this just like an old prop from like Disneyland or something like that? Because it seriously looks so cheesy. And so, yeah, he realizes Tyson has the skill. There's better tools here. I'm gonna put him to work. And he's like, "Do you wanna get out?" And Tyson's like, "I can't. The rules." And Percy says, "I can fix that." I love that.
Yeah, I can fix that. Like, what are rules? Rules are just like made up things that people think I should follow. Basically, that's why I say that Percy also has an Aries moon, because that's how we see rules. But okay, so then to go into the Chariot Race, the Chariot Race was really cool. The things from before the race starts that I wanted to mention is the stuff with like how they all start saying like in honor of, for Zeus, well, not Zeus, for Ares, for all the different cabins. And Percy just like looks at Tyson and he's like, should we say in honor of Poseidon? And they don't. And the line that Tyson says there, I was like, that is every Poseidon child summed up in a sentence, where he says like, I want to make dad proud, but I don't want to hurt anyone. And I'm like, that's literally every Poseidon child. Every Poseidon child. If you're a Poseidon child, that's how you feel. It's like, I want to make people proud, but I don't actually want to hurt anybody. And I just love that part, because I remember when I saw that, I remember when we read Titan's Curse, and how when Thalia comes out of the school, she yells like, for Zeus. And I was like, what? Like, Thalia is yelling like she's fighting for Zeus. Percy would never do that. And I'm like, see, he wouldn't do that.
When Thalia is using it, she yells out like, for Zeus, and I was like, I'm sorry. Do people say that Thalia is similar to Percy? Percy would like literally jump off of a cliff before he would be like, for Poseidon. Never. Are you kidding me? Like, he would
not
never.
That cheesy.
He would say that and then punch himself in the head. Like,
for Poseidon.
Or he would more likely punch Poseidon or like throw the sword at his head.
Because they're the only cabin that's not like doing it in honor of their godly parent. I just liked that little touch that no, they wouldn't be one that would do that. Everyone else would.
Yeah.
And so either way, in the beginning of the race, Annabeth tells one thing I saw people laughing about is that Annabeth's like Athena's sister is named Bronte. And they were like, Athena would have a child named Bronte. And I was like, she really would, named after Charlotte Bronte. Of course you would, old weirdo. But either Tyson hears Annabeth say to Bronte, like, if Percy gets close to you, you have to take him out. And she's like, I thought you were tight with him. And she's like, yeah, that's why I'm telling you to do it. And that Tyson hears that. And it knows that whole time, and he's just like, what? Like, what's going on? Either way, the Chariot Race is really fun. The special effects and stuff they talk about was really fun. And
the entire time. Yeah.
The one part that I was just like, you know what, guys, can you chill? That the Hephaestus cabin, the guy that is extremely Charlie Beckendorf, that the Hephaestus cabin's chariot explodes, and that the only line that guy has is talking about how it's about to explode. I was like, I hate you guys. I hate you guys so much. I hate you so much right now. That they have the guy that's a walking fan art of Charlie Beckendorf talking about how something's about to explode. And I'm like, can you guys chill out? Like, we all know that's going to happen, but I don't want to think about it right now. But either way, it's, the thing that I thought was really fun about the Chariot Race was just showing Clarisse's ruthlessness, that she does that anyway, to Hephaestus right when they start, and that Dionysus and Tantalus are like, no deaths, but, anything could happen. And when the birds start attacking, the thing that they brought up in the official podcast that I thought was really funny in the show too, is that Tantalus is like shrieking like a little girl when the birds start attacking, like a little baby, and he's screaming into like the horn thing that they use to like amplify his voice. And that is how Annabeth figures out that like loud, high-pitched noises scare the birds away.
Wait, but before that even, so while they're actually racing, before the birds attack, Tyson accidentally drops one of the Ares kids. There's two to a chariot. The other guy like starts sword fighting with Tyson, and Tyson doesn't even mean to, but he accidentally drops that guy out, which then prompts the Hermes cabin to have to swerve to avoid that kid. And he basically took out two carts at once accidentally. Kind of, anyway. I mean, like, the Ares cabin was still going, but it's pretty interesting that they give him, like, such a big role in that part. That's where we get the lines from Dionysus and Tantalus of somebody's dead, or at least maimed.
Yeah, I liked that part because it was a very like Poseidon child thing, that the Ares cabin, like Clarisse tells him to go and take the Cyclops out. The guy is trying to like stab him so hard and can't get to him, and so Tyson just lets go of him. He's not actually hurting him. He just like lets go, and the guy just like falls over. And so it's like, you don't have to hurt people to win. You can just let them fall over and make their own mistakes. And that's just such a Poseidon child sort of thing, of at least how they write them in these books. And I am so glad that we were right about Mariah Carey. And like we got that from at the Comic-Con installation thing they did. I called it the Monster Donut installation. I don't know if it actually was supposed to be that. I just called it that because that's what it reminded me of. And on like the walls, one of the things on the walls was a cassette tape of Mariah Carey, and I was like, oh, that is perfect. That is so perfect. Please let them actually have used Mariah Carey's super high pitched like a fort to scare the birds away. I'm so glad that that's actually what happened. And it was really funny how they have Percy do the say anything moment. And I liked how he's holding it up and Tyson is holding up one of the horn things so that it can be louder. And they're standing right next to Tantalus and Dionysus, who are both screaming like little babies and doing absolutely nothing to help anyone. And then they stop and Tantalus is like, we solved it.
Like, we did it. We did it, guys. Well,
you totally did something.
So with the Stymphalian birds, one thing that was also interesting to me, just to keep track of all of the racers in the like chariot race. So we have Clarisse, who keeps going, right? She's like, I'm not going to stop. Even when she loses her freaking co-pilot, she's still trying to fight with Percy while steering. Like, total Aries child. Annabeth notices the Stymphalian birds break the barrier, stops, and then that's when she's like, I gotta go fix this. Percy doesn't stop because of the Stymphalian birds. He stops because Clarisse put the spiky thing out of her wheel, and it broke his wheel, and he nearly fell off, but even after that, they were missing a wheel, so they couldn't keep going. And as soon as he's like off of his chariot, that's when he's like, oh wait, everyone's getting attacked, what do we do? And goes to Annabeth. So how the race shakes out to me in this one, it made sense for all of the different personalities of the different cabins that are involved. So okay, after the Stymphalian bird attack, after the Mariah Carey moment, we get the scene where they all seem to be in the infirmary. We have all of these kids bandaged up. Somebody's in like crutches. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is I did not, the first time I never remember details, but the first time I watched the episode, I was like, where are they? This room is too
Yeah.
small for it to be like the cafeteria room. And this time it finally clicked, like, oh my God, they're having this meeting with camp in the infirmary because everyone's hurt. Everyone's just in there after being attacked by the birds. And so they're just having the meeting where half the people are like laying down in on cots because they're still in. It just made me laugh that everyone is in there because everyone got hurt. But this is when Tantalus is like, Clarisse won because she doesn't care about any of you and won the race. He just wanted to win $50. And
Pretty much.
and then and this is when they start giving they give the quest to her instead of Percy, and he's like, and I just like the part when he stands up and he's like, you set the wrong coordinates, and like, why would you give it to her? Like that doesn't make any sense.
The thing is,
And
he
like,
doesn't finish that, though. He doesn't finish that thought. And so Clarisse is going to go with the wrong coordinates. Especially if Chris didn't overhear. I mean, Annabeth, had she actually gone with her, she knew the right ones. But Clarisse is going to be going in the wrong direction. That's one thing that we kind of can deduce is going to happen in the next episode. Another thing, too, when they first start talking to the group at camp, I don't know if you caught this, but Dionysus only really talks about rescheduling the Chariot Race. And Tantalus is the one who is like, and also, I had a dream, and I figured out how we're going to save camp. I know everything, and then gives the wrong coordinates.
I thought it was just such a Tantalus thing for him to say, like, I just want everyone to know that the barrier at camp is going to be fine for a week, and then you have to run for your life. And then they, of course, start panicking. Like, what do you mean we're going to be fine for a week, you loser? Like, that doesn't... What... But I liked... The part I liked with Clarisse is that she generally looked really surprised to get the quest. And that she also looked kind of scared. To be going on the quest to save camp. Like, she definitely, like, ramps up the bravado, especially... People talked about how when Percy was standing up and being like, those are the wrong coordinates and stuff, and everyone started yelling at him to sit back down, and he sat back down. That was the Ares cabin. Because the Ares cabin, I don't want to know what Ares does, so he always has the biggest cabin. But he does have the biggest one in these books. And so that's why all those people started yelling at Percy, because it was all the Ares kids all telling him to sit down because they finally got a quest of their own. And I thought it was really fun for, like, Clarisse's characterization that Annabeth tells her to pick her, and she's like, yeah, that makes sense. But I really like the fact that Clarisse was going to take Percy. Because it's like, even if we don't get along, she still knows that Percy is a good idea to have on a quest where you're on the ocean. The son of Poseidon being there would always be a good idea. And it's not until... Annabeth starts, betraying him basically that stops. And of course that's where we get the first time that Percy just looks so confused and also betrayed of like, I like the way that they do it where there's just like no possible way that he could not know that she is the reason why he's not going, and he obviously doesn't understand why, and she doesn't exactly say anything to him either. She just kind of, like, it happens, and she just kind of walks away from him after that. And it's like, it makes sense why he's so upset by that. And the thing that I liked about...
Well, she looks like she's going to cry when he starts walking away. I don't know if this is just, like, Leah's interpretation, but she looks like she's holding back tears when she's you really can tell Walker... Yeah,
she's definitely really upset. Like, she knows that she just hurt him a lot and feels really bad about having to do it. Didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to. And the thing with Percy's side of it that I like is how he's able to go to Tyson and talk to Tyson, because this is why I like Tyson and Percy's relationship, is that Percy usually doesn't have people like that to go to and just talk about these sort of things with and be like, I don't understand what's going on. And he just told him, Like Clarisse and I usually, she would have brought me. We don't hate each other that much. But then Annabeth said no, and I don't understand why. And that is when Tyson tells him what Annabeth said during the chariot race. And that the look on Walker's face is so sad, because it's just like, that's just no way for him to take that. But like, why wouldn't she want me to come? Like, it's just a horrible feeling of, I trust this girl so much, but she just like stabbed me in the back, and I don't understand why. And because she doesn't go and try to talk to him, even though it's understandable why she doesn't, because he doesn't have anything else to go on. He's just really hurt and upset, because like, what else is he supposed to think? You need to talk to him and tell him if there's just anything, but nothing. If you give him anything, he'll like go with it pretty much. That's just kind of what his characterization is like when you're somebody that he trusts. But it's just hard, because like, what is she supposed to say? Which I guess she could have just told him like, Chiron made me. That would have been enough. But either way, this is when he has, isn't this when he has his other dream with Grover that that I like a
Hold
lot
on.
more, because
There's some stuff with Tyson first. So with Tyson, when he goes up to Tyson, the one thing that caught me is Tyson says, "Oh, Clarisse, she seems cool," and then then he goes into the thing where he's like, "Oh, Annabeth was whispering like at the chariot race." Percy also, like, when he immediately gets back, he starts packing, like, well, I'm leaving anyway. I don't care about stupid laws. Like, I'm going to go on my own. And Tyson really only talks about being afraid of the dark and being afraid to be alone.
That's like the one thing that makes Percy stop and look at him and just be like, I know, but I have to go, and just look at him and be like, I swear that you'll be okay here. And he honestly would have been, at least if he didn't leave his cabin, he would have been okay. He would have been alone, but at least he would have been safe until Percy got back, if he didn't come with him anyway. And then he has, this dream is so fun with, the scene is so fun with Grover. This is when we finally see the wedding dress. And the first time we see it, Percy's wearing it. I'm so glad that Percy's the one that wore it. I was really hoping that it was going to be Tyson or Percy. I'm so glad that it was Percy. And so this dream starts, and they're talking again, and it's so cool how they show the different merging, like that the cabin opens up to the middle of the ocean, and that during this dream section, Grover like sees Tyson sleeping in the corner, that he found this wedding dress in a shipwrecked ship, and he is just like pretending to be a wife because he can't see very well, and I love how he says like, don't ask, and Percy is like, Grover, I have to ask. And then he goes into, because it's like, what do you mean I can't ask why you're wearing a wedding dress? And he goes into all of that stuff. Just the back and forth between Arian and Walker in this scene especially is it's just so funny and natural. But it also shows like this time when Arian or Grover is talking to him, he's a little bit more like keyed up, like desperate. And it's just like, the wedding is in a week. You have to get here in a week. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen to me. And the thing though, when they're talking about Annabeth, I thought it was really interesting about how when he said that, oh, don't worry about that, that's Tyson, he's just here right now, or whatever he says, and he sees this the Cyclops, he's like, oh, what does Annabeth think about that? Gives us like the audience a clue that she doesn't like Cyclops for some reason. And Percy, I don't care, and he looks at him like, what? And then he feels like, you're really mad right now, like, why are you so, what's going on, like, what's happening when I'm gone? Like, he's trying to be like the peacekeeper from thousands of miles away, and I just like how Grover is saying to Percy, like, I betrayed you like that too. And he's like, yeah, because Chiron made you. And then it just like clicks in his head, like, oh, that's probably what's going on, because Grover reminds him, like, have you considered that there might be a reason that you don't know for why? But it's like, I don't care right now because I'm really hurt and they're not giving me anything to go on, so I don't want to care. And then it clicks in his head, like, oh, it's probably because Chiron made him, but it's so frustrating that this even happened, and he's trying to figure it out with Grover in his dreams. And then Grover and him are just so funny, and it's the best part ever is when Grover he starts hearing Polyphemus, and the line that he says where he's like, I have to go, he's waking up or something like that, and he's gonna want dinner and stuff like that. I was just like, oh my god. And I know that Aryan talked about how he like played like almost like a different version of like a wife figure, like a mix of the two different archetypes people would imagine. It was just so funny hearing Grover be like, I have to make him dinner now and so I have to go to take care of my giant monster thing that thinks that I'm a girl that is also keeping me captive here. And he's like, you have to get here in a week. But the thing from this scene that absolutely everyone loves, as they absolutely should, there's something wrong with you if you don't like this part, is the end of the scene when he puts, not only does he have a veil, he also has a tiara for some reason. Who brings these things on a ship? But either way, he puts the tiara on, then he puts the veil on, and he's like, how do I look? And we know this from the official podcast that the line when Grover says, how do I look? That was supposed to be the end of that scene. But this one take, Walker looks at him and it says in the most intense and serious tone, beautiful. And that's what they keep, and they kept that in the episode. Yeah. And I was like, you freaking better have kept that in the episode.
How do I look? Beautiful.
Just Aryan and Walker trying to like one up each other gives you wonderful scenes like that where they just start pulling out any comedic stuff they can possibly ever think of. That was just hilarious that's the last thing he says to Grover is that he looks beautiful, and then he wakes up again and has to go leave. And when he goes, first off, the satyr that is like working for Tantalus, I just wrote like, who is this narc? Mm-hmm. Who are you? Why are you being an actual narc? Why are you following people around and doing this? Like, I'm sure we'll get to know him in later episodes, but like, what is, stop being a loser. And, but also this part when Percy goes to talk to Poseidon to basically ask him permission to leave and go on this quest, like, by himself, basically.
I love how he words it, because the way he words it is, I'm not asking for your help and I'm not asking for your permission. I just need to know you won't stop me. And he gives him the correct reverence that, a god would expect of, the sea is yours. And like, I'm about to go on this seafaring journey. So I just need to know that you're not going to like magically hold me back.
I love that because this is an Odyssey adaptation. And so the idea that in an Odyssey adaptation that's all about people messing with Poseidon in the original, that he asks Poseidon and he says, like, I know that you obviously own the sea. If you don't want me to go, you're going to stop me. So please don't stop me. I just love how they put that in this Odyssey adaptation and have somebody ask Poseidon's permission instead of just walking all over him and having everything go wrong because you didn't ask his permission. That's always an option. But people in the original stories just like didn't think about it like that. And then we have this scene with Hermes that made me want to kill him. That I knew would make me want to kill him because it made me want to kill him and bury his body somewhere when we read the books originally too. Yes. But it is just, oh my god. The like lines, there are some really good lines here with Hermes, like talking about, I'm honestly not sure if I believe that Poseidon actually said yes to the quest or if he just said that because he wants Percy to go and save his horrible son. I honestly don't know. And like I love Percy in this part because he knows that Hermes is a liar and doesn't trust anything he says and knows he's not telling him the whole truth. And so he doesn't believe Hermes either.
Says, well, your dad's not the god of excessive verbosity. And what struck me about that was I was like, but you are. You're the god of excessive verbosity because like you're about to talk your way out of everything. And then he follows it up with a bunch of puns about liars. It's silly and it feels like so on brand for Hermes, but it's also the kind of frustrating it would be if you're talking to somebody who's tricky like that.
Mm-hmm. And how he starts telling him, like, I want you, I have all these things. He gives him the multivitamins that are, what is it, moly? I was so mad when I realized that that's what that was supposed to be. I was like, what is wrong with me that I never figured that out until we read Circe? Like, and then like the wind and I think that's most of the supply things that he gives him. But just and he says, "Oh, I have a ride," and Percy, of course, is like a ship, and you want me to get on that ship, and I just like how Percy's like, I know you're lying to me right now, and that you're not telling me something, but I just don't care because I want to leave on this quest anyway. So I know that there's something you're not telling me, but I'm just not going to ask you about it because I just want to go anyway. Basically, he wants to go on the quest, but he doesn't trust Hermes. Because the part about this at the very end, just to skip to the very end, that I liked was when Hermes disappears and he yells out, like, I'm not saying yes. That doesn't mean that I accept your stupid quest. And things like that, because he doesn't necessarily. But either way, this is the part that always makes me want to kill Hermes, and every person who hates Hermes is having like the time of our lives because we got a scene like this.
Unbelievable. I try to do everything right, and I can't get my dad's attention for a second. Meanwhile, Luke is trying to tear down Olympus, and you're trying to save him.
He's my son.
He hates you.
He's my son.
Like, I love how Hermes is trying to like skate through this conversation and hoping that Percy doesn't figure out what he's trying to do, because he looks really surprised when Percy is like, unbelievable that you are here trying to get me to save your son who wants to destroy Olympus when my dad won't come talk to me, and you're here trying to convince me to go save your son. And I just love how he's like what? And the back and forth of Hermes saying like, he's my son, and him being like, he hates you. And it's overall, this is the thing with Hermes that makes me want to lose it, is that it is so, I cannot like put into words how wrong it is and just messed up that Hermes goes to Percy of all people and is like, go out here and save my son. And like, we know that the ship he's sending him to is Luke's ship. And once again, I am glad that they had Hermes not tell him, and because that whole thing of them being surprised by it makes everything that happens, whatever happens in the next episode, worse, because they have no idea what they're walking into. And he didn't tell him because he knew he would say no. He doesn't want to go and try to save Luke. He's just going because he wants to save Grover. He doesn't care about Luke. But it's just, you should never, ever, ever, you should never ask the victim of somebody that you care about for anything. It is most definitely not the victim's fault to save them. And the last time that Percy saw Luke, he tried to kill him. What? Why are you asking him? Ask literally anyone else but him. Like if your son tried to kill him the last time they talked to each other, you should never be asking him to go out there and save him, because it's family and that's what you're supposed to do. You can never give up on your family. And it's like, are you guilt tripping this child for not wanting to go save the guy who brought him out into the woods to kill him if he didn't join his crazy recruitment and like turn his back on everybody that he cares about? Like, that is, what are you doing that you're trying to make him feel guilty for not wanting to go save Luke? And Percy, of course, is right. Like, Luke doesn't want to be saved. just to start, he doesn't want to be saved at all. And also, he can't really be saved in that way. It's definitely not up to, like, I just sit here and think, like, is Hermes really saying that it's up to Percy to save Luke? Like, it is not up to Percy to save Luke. It's not up to anyone to save Luke. Luke has to save Luke. Like, you don't go out there to save somebody from their own abusive nightmare that they're becoming. You can't do that. That is the basis of every abusive relationship. And so Hermes saying that always makes me so angry that he asked Percy to do that at all. Like, you're putting him in horrible danger. Like, I remember when we read the Sea of Monsters book before the next episode, Percy is, like, terrified of Luke. Like, he's, like, shaking because he's so scared. And he's panicking inside his own head and can't even, like, say anything out loud because he's so afraid of Luke when they see him again. And it's absolutely a million times worse because they don't know that he's there until they realize where they are, and then they're trapped there already. Like, it's just ew. And so that scene is great for all time to see Percy yell at him like that and just be like, what is wrong with you? Like, you go save your son. You can go talk to your son. You're not changing the prophecy if you just talk to your son. You're just a scared little baby. Loser. And so after that happens, first off, can I just say that it is the funniest thing ever that in the books they take, like, rainbow, and in this, the inflatable, like, boat is rainbow colored. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
I was like, you guys are really funny.
Sorry.
This line from Tyson, like, cracked me up. He got mad you told Bronte to beat him up.
So I love that Tyson's, like, splitting hairs while he's thinking about it. He's like, wait, okay, so quest is 3 people. What do you call it when one person runs away by themselves without anybody knowing?
Yeah.
And Annabeth's just like,
what?
You call it, let's go. Yeah. But
and then we get the Percy and Annabeth, like, angsty scene of the episode.
Yeah, I can't lose another friend, which is definitely a powerful statement coming from Annabeth, because she lost Thalia, she lost Luke, she's losing Thalia a second time, and now Percy's going off right after Chiron was like, hey, he's in very, very big danger. You gotta watch him like a hawk. Keep him at camp. He can train and stuff, but he can't leave.
And he was just about to leave while she was sleeping. And this scene was really interesting because I like how this scene with Percy and Annabeth set up the kind of things that they're going to learn about each other in this season. Because I will argue against what Annabeth said, because to me that sounds like somebody thinking, like, I'm too traumatized to have normal experiences. That's not true. Horror movies are fun even when you've been through a lot of complex trauma. I know, because I like them still. And when I grew up, this may sound depressing to people, but I liked horror movies. I still like them. I just don't watch them as much. But I have always liked horror movies because it's fun for me to watch something that is scary that has nothing to do with my life. And so I like them because it's like a fun, like, it's completely separate from anything I've ever experienced. I don't like horror movies that have anything with, like, children being abused or anything in them. I don't watch those ones. But the other ones I like to watch. They're fun because I can be scared, but I know it's just from a movie and it's not anything real. And so this part I thought was interesting because Annabeth thinks that, like, school is boring. It wasn't that fun. Nothing was that fun because I was really bored. I don't think that she actually gave it, like, a real shot, because I'm not sure she really felt like she fit with, like, her dad's family. And it's something that we know in the books becomes much better for her later on. And so I'm hoping that they do that sort of thing in the show as well, that she realizes that she can do both, that she can be like a demigod. But I thought this part with both of them was interesting, that Annabeth thinks that Percy was able to, like, have this nice childhood. Like she says, like, you have your mom and you can still be a kid. And I was like, can he really though? Like, or did he really though? Like, not really. And so I honestly don't know if Annabeth knows about any of that, because it's not like Percy's one to ever talk about like, oh, Gabe did this stuff to me, or kids at school bullied me really badly. Everyone knows about him being in a bunch of different schools and being, you know, always getting in trouble and stuff. But it's a different thing to actually know like what was really going on. Because Percy, this is the thing with both of them. Both of them are like wrong about what they think about the other person. Like, Percy didn't actually grow up in this nice sort of environment where he got to be a kid. Like, he was sent away from his mom most of the time. He was going through a lot of abuse at home when he was there. And even though he can go back to see his mom now, it's still like he still struggles with school. He doesn't have any friends. The one friend he has at every school is somebody that's connected to like his magical life. He's not like, he talks about liking movies and things like that, but it's not like his life was that happy. He's not telling Annabeth about that stuff yet because nobody likes talking about that stuff like that. But it does make me wonder if the stuff with like Clarisse and Ares during this season is going to bring some of that stuff naturally up to give Annabeth a chance to find out that like his childhood was not as good as what she maybe is like imagining it was, where she didn't want to tell Percy that she didn't like the things that he thought that she would enjoy. And in the same way, like he knows that, you know, he wishes that she could. It reminds me a lot of, you know, their acting coach, Andrew. He talked about how they are connected to each other because they have things that the other person wants. Like Percy wanted, when he was growing up, to have people that knew who he was really and accepted him the way that Annabeth did. And Annabeth growing up would want like a caring parent like Sally was. And I feel like these two, this argument hits on that Percy's like, I thought that I was done having people lie to me all the time and keep secrets from me when I had everyone I talked to was keeping all these secrets from me the entire time I was growing up. And I would like that to stop now, please, thanks. And Annabeth is just like, I feel like I'm too different or weird that I can't be part of like the normal world. And like I said, like Percy this season we know is going to find out like how traumatic things were with Thalia. Like he knows that it was, but he's going to find out more details about how scary all that stuff actually was for her. And so it does make me wonder if she's going to find out the same kind of thing about him, to realize that his life was not as happy as you might think it is. Because I can understand why she would see like his situation with Sally and be like, he doesn't understand her struggling with things when he actually does. It just, why would he want to tell her about that stuff? We never want to tell people shit.
Yeah.
We never want to tell people anything like that. But either way, it was a really good scene, especially when Percy is like, does that mean that we can't be friends? Like, I don't think so. And the line that he said is very apt of, if you talk about something, it will become easier. And she says, like, I feel like it'll get worse. No, it always gets easier. Even when it's the scariest stuff in the world, you always, even if you don't have an answer for it, you always feel better when you share why something upsets you or why you're scared of something. Even if it's something like the Great Prophecy. And we know in later episodes that she tells him about it because he knows about it. And so she clearly listens to him at a certain point and just tells him about it instead of feeling like she has to keep it from him. And it does get easier when she tells him because it's not this big festering secret anymore. He's aware of what's going on, and so she doesn't have to feel like she's carrying it all inside. But like I said, like, it's just such a good way to show their dynamic of like why there's like fundamental differences with them, and the things that during this season there'll be them working through those things. I think it's so funny that the siren scene is going to be like towards the end of the season, because that feels like the ultimate thing of Annabeth being like, but I can control things, and Percy being like, no, you cannot. Stop tying me up on this boat and let me out of here.
Yeah. So
I think that's it. Besides
they
the very
get
end.
interrupted by Tantalus. Yeah. Yeah, so they get interrupted by Tantalus, and he has a little, like, crossbow, and he's like, you guys remember at the big meeting, I said that if anyone's beyond camp borders, they're getting shot on sight. And first him and Annabeth are like, our parents are going to be mad And he says, I think they'll be happy that I'm enforcing the rules and taking care of their disobedient children. And another thing, like, this is the exact quote that I wrote down from Tantalus. If there's one thing I've learned from 3,000 years of hunger, it's you never defy the will of the gods. And that's when Tyson appears from behind him. He rushes him, and they're able to take the boat. And I have to laugh at Daniel's run here because it looks so goofy. And Daniel Deemer talks on the podcast episode that they did after this one, or no, it was the first one, that he had gotten a direction from their acting director of like, you know, don't do the run so goofy. And he's like, I wasn't trying to. But one thing I caught when they were on the boat is that, so Tantalus shoots 2 bolts at them. The first bolt hits the boat, which is inflatable, which means it's starting to lose air immediately. Tyson does not waste a second and grab the first aid kit. We got to get this thing out of it. Like, I think there was a patch kit in there. And so he just immediately fixes the boat with Annabeth's help. And while they're sitting there trying to fix it, Percy's able to deflect a second bolt. And by the time that happens, they're a little bit too far. And Tantalus just kind of gives up and throws a tantrum on the beach.
Yeah, he doesn't get to kill children, so, and then feed them again to the gods because he's an idiot. Because he probably would have done that. And people are like already speculating that like actual Rainbow is going to show up because they're probably not going to make it all the way to Luke's ship before their little boat dies, since there's already a hole in it. But either way, I love how it ends with Tyson being like, we're going on a quest. And and Percy's all happy about how they somehow ended up going on a quest together. And they have no idea that they're going to Luke's boat. And the like scenes that they put in at the very end of the credits that are like previews for next week shows Clarisse looking overwhelmed, Ares being there, which is, oh my god, that's going to be a lot for me, and then showing Annabeth and Percy, and we know Tyson there too, climbing onto Luke's ship, but they don't know it's his ship yet, and then like voiceovers of Percy being like, Luke's here, and her being like, he's not just here, this is his ship, and showing him in his super fancy vest on his stupid ship. I can't wait to, at the end of the season, to talk about Luke's super fashion choices of being super white, alt-right, Greek mythology looking.
Yeah. So one thing also, Annabeth here is convinced that they can never go back because that's like having her little freak out of, we broke the law, we can't ever go back. And I do think that that's a big difference in their personality, where this whole episode 2, Percy's joking about breaking the rules, constantly breaking the rules, and Annabeth's like, but the law. And Percy even said when he like did his little plea to Poseidon, he's like, I don't care about some law about quests. I'm gonna do this. We do know, like, coming up in like future episodes, that Clarisse has to deal with the betrayal that she feels too, with Annabeth just taking off like that. So it makes me wonder, because some of the scenes we saw super duper early on, I'm thinking like teaser era, is that we saw Clarisse with her like minions, but we never saw Chris. And that could be partially because they didn't want to let us know he was going to be on the quest, but also maybe by the time that she's ready to leave, she realizes Annabeth's not there. Maybe Chris is also either gone or he takes off very soon after that.
That first scene they show in like the previews for next week, which they also put in the last trailer of her just like in like the big house or something, like looking really intense. I kind of just thought that might be the scene when she realizes that Annabeth is gone, and if Chris has gone too. It's because in the book, like, Clarisse goes by herself because no one else from camp really likes her, and so she's just like, I'm not going to pick anybody, I'm just going to go on my own, sort of thing, and tries to make it sound like she's doing it to like because nobody else can like keep up with her, sort of thing. And so I'm interested to see if they have her end up in that, because you don't see anyone else on the iron side with them but Percy and Annabeth in the scenes. So it makes me think that maybe Chris goes back to Luke, and that's when and the kids then see Chris on the ship with Luke, and that makes you realize that that he's been like with Luke this whole time. And then she goes to like see Annabeth and realizes it and finds out that Annabeth left with Percy. It makes a lot more sense why she's so mad at Percy when they first run into each other, that he kind of like stole Annabeth from her on this quest. And I really like that they even put that scene in the first place, that they had Clarisse and Annabeth want to go on a quest together at all. But yeah, I do wonder if that's what she's thinking and feeling, because that's very understandable why she would be upset at him. Because he did kind of steal Annabeth.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what they do with that next. God, that was everything. And we managed to do it in under 3 hours.
That was a lot. That was a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So we definitely are loving the changes so far. It's kind of interesting because they gave us a few like changes where we know there's more coming, but we don't know what yet. And I just love that after all these years, we could still be kind of like on our toes of like, what's going to happen next.
One of the things too, like Rick even said this in interviews, and we've said this before, that even the things that we do know happens, it's a different feeling actually watching it on screen. And so even the scenes that we're pretty sure will happen, it's a whole other thing to imagine, like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, I told you, I said this in our video on Monday, that our friend Sophia saw the first episode and was like, I'm not going to survive the 4th episode because I already like Tyson and Percy way too much. And it's like that thing of everyone's like dreading and also wanting to see that, because we know it's going to make everyone cry so much because we already care about them a lot. And it's just, yeah, it's one thing to like read these scenes. It's another thing to actually see them happening in front of you. And then when you add in like additional scenes with like Ares, or with Luke and his people terrorizing everyone, and Luke himself, it's just a completely different feeling. Especially if Luke is trying to do his propaganda to try to get people to join him. Like, people were literally calling it Charlie was giving Luke propaganda in interviews.
He was.
I will say, as like a last thing, I think it's funny that one interview clip that I played of Walker being like, you can't just kill people. Like, I don't understand why people are okay with him just killing people.
There was a betrayal.
I've heard there's going to be a lot of Luke apologists by the end of this season. Do you
We've
guys
been
agree?
hearing that. But he's going about it the wrong way.
He's going about it the
killing
wrong
a bunch
way.
of people. That's not
You
very
can't
nice.
do that.
You can't.
Why do people think that's okay? It's like, I never understood that.
That earlier on in that clip, Leah, when the interviewer says that there is like Luke apologists, Leah is like, what, like Luke actually apologizing for once? Like, that's what she thinks a Luke apologist is somebody who wants him to apologize. If that is true, we are the biggest Luke apologists. Get down on your knees and apologize. That's not what this is. But that's what she thought, because she was like, what, how else could you go for Luke? And it was just really funny to hear those three, Daniel and Walker and Leah, all being hardcore like, ew, Luke, no. And well, Dior was too. Even Dior in an interview was like, guys, what's wrong with you? Luke is trying to kill Percy. We can't be okay with anything he's doing anymore when he's trying to take out Percy. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just picture Charlie trying to like enact his propaganda with everybody on set and nobody listening to him.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, so we're gonna end it here, but we are switching our recording day to Friday, which I don't know when that means you'll get it out. What I was trying to say is we're changing up our recording schedule, so we're gonna be uploading a little bit closer to when the episodes come out, but we're gonna keep doing our analysis thing along with short form, so it may not be as timely as some of the other people that do it, but we're trying our best.
Yeah, that's just not our style. Like, I don't know how people get stuff up like the day after. I have to like think about it for like 2 days before I even know how I fully feel and what I even want to say. That's
Yeah.
just, we need time to actually like think about everything. And I'm going to try to get it up like the next day or something because it doesn't take too long editing wise to do that kind of thing with this stuff. But that's basically what we're going to do now. If there's things that we feel like we need to talk about, we'll record on our usual day on Mondays too, but just kind of keep it open just in case something comes up or whatever. Yeah. Other than that, that's it.
Yep. So, hope everybody enjoys episode 3. We will see you guys after it comes out.
Bye. Watch out for Aries.
Yes.